Good evening, everyone. It's time to call our meeting to order. At this time, we'll ask, that's me. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, once again, the Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings you stored on each and every one of us together here today. But most of all, Father, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. Now, Father, we ask you to bless this board as we do the business of Columbia County. We ask you to look after us and the things that we do be for the good of this county. Father, we always ask you to bless our servicemen and women as they serve around the world, to give us this opportunity to have an open meeting, an open forum like we have in these United States of America. Father, we ask you to bless Ukraine and look after them and just give them the courage and the fighting power to keep going. I still believe in David and Goliath. Now, Father, we ask all these blessings in our Son's name, Jesus Christ, that went to Calvary, forgiveness of our sins. In his name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, I appreciate everyone being here tonight. Commissioner Ford is on vacation, and we expecting him back to take the chair seat at our first meeting next month. This time, is there any addition or deletion to the afternoon meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chair, there are two additions. Both of them are time sensitive. The first one is an easement for the temporary spray fields at the North Florida Mega Industrial Park. And the second one is a request by the Chamber of Commerce for fireworks for the 4th of July.
Does the board have any deletions or additions?
No, sir.
Hearing any, entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Approve the agenda as amended.
Motion. Second, all in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right, first on the agenda would be the Columbia County Riding Club presentation.
Come on up. We're gonna have no proclamation.
First off, I want to thank you guys for allowing us to come in, do our presentation. We appreciate it very much. Can you hear me?
No, ma'am, make sure you speak into the microphone.
Come closer and get it.
Oh, yeah.
Get it up there close.
Got it going on,
You
hadn't
have to
I?
bend up a little bit.
How about now?
There you go.
I know you can talk louder than that.
I don't
You don't
have
have to be between them, just getting one in front of one of them. There you go. There you
Does that
go. Now
work?
you're good.
Does that work? Good. My name's Ann Milligan. I'm a director with the Columbia County Riding Club. I'm a lifelong resident of Columbia County. Been married to that man right there for 62 years. We have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. And I'm currently employed by the Florida Gateway College as a nursing instructor. That's just a little bit of my background. All right, let me see if I can work this thing. This? Nope. This? Nope. Nope. Would you switch it? Oh, so what do I do? Just go? Give you the sign. All right, this is our purpose statement. The Columbia County Riding Club exists to conduct, promote, and administer equine activities in our local area and advance through youth development programs a safe and quality experience for its members and the community. A little bit of the club history is this club was actually established in 2004. It was incorporated as a not-for-profit, a 501c3, and we do hold monthly equine-related speed events. We are very much family-oriented. Our memberships are multi-generational. Participants range in age from 3 to the 70s. A lot of our members pass down through families We have members who started in our club and moved up to sanctioned rodeos. We have several little rodeo queens from our club that we are very proud of. As a matter of fact, our children are just, that's what keeps us going, is it's about the kids. Our club is financially self-sustaining. We do fundraising, membership fees, and sponsorships. So I want to go a little bit about the benefits of the equine activities. It improves our health and fitness, teaches, and a lot of this is, some of it's for adults, but most of this is for our children. It teaches them life lessons. It improves their social skills. It boosts their confidence. And it helps them with their accountability. It teaches them patience, and Clarence and I have thoroughly learned patience with horses. You have to be very patient. It teaches them team building, responsibility, self-discipline, decision-making, adult and child development, assist those with special needs. We have had those before with the special needs. We'd like to implement that again. There's a lot of psychological benefits for those with deficits. We have a young man that is very, he does have some deficits, but he's such a faithful guy. We just love him to death. And it has been a big benefit for him to be in our club and to come every time we have a meeting. On the back, horseback riding, this is just something I added. Horseback riding has been proven to directly help treat those that are suffering from ADD, anxiety, autism, depression, dementia. That would be me. Riding a horse releases endorphins and other feel-good chemicals that reduce stress. I know I'm all for equine therapy. I used to tell my husband when I get off from work at Lake Shore, I would say, I need some equine therapy. So we would load the horses and go down to the park and ride because I needed that fresh air and I needed to get away. It produces muscle development for our children, balance and motor skills, hand and eye coordination. It can boost the cardiovascular system, and it gives us goal-directed behavior. All right, I want to share with you a little bit of our events. We have monthly ride night with speed events. We also participate in the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch open house annually that's held in Live Oak, Florida. We are part of the planning committee for the events that they hold during that open house. So our club is an integral part of the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch. We have barrel clinics, which we've already had on 5/27. We're currently going to have a youth ranch rodeo that we will start on 6/24. We have what we call 50/50 jackpots. We also have year-end awards for our people, our participants, and this includes the older folk too. We do saddles and tack, that type of thing. It requires a 75% participation, and then we give gifts or awards up to 6 places. We also have a Robert Grice Harmon Memorial Trophy that we give annually on our last ride, and it's geared totally for the youth. So whoever wins that cloverleaf gets this award. And what we do is we award it to them. They get their name on the trophy. They get to keep it for a year, and then they bring it back for the next year. And that's a real, the kids love that. Competition is very much a part of our club for the children. For the future, we want to include an equine 4-H club. We want to do some cattle sorting, some team pinning, some roping. We want to do some day camps and some clinics, and we want to do adult and youth. We want to have special needs activities for those people in our community that need it. We want to have some guided trail rides. We want to be able to host events like horsemanship clinics, nutrition clinics, veterinary clinics, chiropractors, and farriers. Anything that has to do with equine to educate our club and the people of our community. We like to do all of this stuff, okay? But we have a limited ability right now to host these events due to scheduling with the fairgrounds. Cost is prohibited. It costs us $250 a day. So we must hold these multiple events on one day. So I'd like to say one more thing before I see if you guys have any questions. The youth that are involved in ball sports, they have ball fields to practice on. But our youth in rodeo, we don't have a place to practice. So our question to you board, to you commissioners is, please grant us the ability to have a place for our children. Okay? Any questions so far? Comments? Nothing?
Did I miss it? How many people you have in your club?
Miss, our president.
Ma'am, will you please come to the podium?
We can't hear you. He can't hear you for
I've
sure.
got my hearing aid turned up. I hear.
Neither one of them can hear you.
And give your name to the clerk, please.
This is our president, Cheryl Harris.
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Harris. I am the current president of the club. I've been with them going on 4 years, 3 years as a director and now president. As of 2016, we had probably 80 members. Through the time, it has gone up and down. Within the last 4 years, due to COVID, we have dropped down to, we have 51 current members this year. A lot of that is due to changing arenas. Our schedule has been really changed because we have to go around the road, the fairgrounds. So we don't have our dates steady. But the club is growing. There's a lot of interest. And like she said, there's a lot of multi-family. She rode, her granddaughter rides, and it's good for the community. And
My
we do
husband
need a
rode.
current place that we can call our own so that we can come in and do this on a, a steady basis.
Okay, I just was curious how many were limited.
We had 53 members right now. We had up to 170 participate in our Youth Ranch Rodeos. I think it was 2018.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else?
Any other question from the board?
Anybody? I want to go on, I want to kind of lay a groundwork for what we are asking you guys for. Okay? Our facility needs, we'd like an arena, a minimum arena of 250 by 150 feet. We'd like a minimum of 20 acres. And of course, if we grow, we're going to need more acreage for sure, because the trailers are bigger and the trucks are bigger. And the people bring lots more horses and they bring lots more kids. We'd like a facility to be able to include a cook shack, parking, crow's nest, or an announcement booth, a spectator seating, and of course the bathrooms that we would need. We'd need arena paneling and gates. We would need lighting. We'd need a perimeter and interior fencing, water, sewer, and electric. Now, we have obtained some quotes, and we would gladly invite commissioner input in this, if you need to. We have a future 3 to 5 year goal. We'd like a dedicated facility. Ability to host events without scheduling conflicts is a biggie for us. We'd like to grow our membership big time. We'd like to reach out to surrounding areas in North Florida. And we would love to have an access to a wooded area for trail riding with this arena. Trail riding is a big, I know the kids love it. I know I love it. I've been doing it for years. That's my equine therapy. So do I have any questions or anything at all that I can hopefully answer for you guys? That's my presentation.
Ms. Milligan, where, you said the youth rodeo is coming up where?
It's going to be held over at the fairgrounds, at the rodeo arena.
What's the date?
Next Saturday? Next Saturday, correct?
Next Saturday.
24th. I got it on here. I think it's the 24th. It's 6/24, and then we have one on 7/8, 8/26, and 9/9. So you can see how those dates are kind of where they plugged us in, because of, we just needed to be plugged in. And we got the mercy.
Some,
Do you want me to go over some of the stuff that we do at the the Youth Ranch
No,
Rodeo?
What I want to ask, so the fairgrounds is out of the question. Like you couldn't, even if you had more money, it wouldn't work for the fairgrounds, right? You couldn't do, I'm talking about for right now, and then, the fairgrounds just don't work for you.
They do, and we could make do, and what we would like to do is maybe pay through 2024, but they require all their money up front.
Right.
That way, we don't just get plugged into different areas, to different dates. What we would like to do is like the second Saturday of each month. That was kind of always been in our agenda before, but then when things came down like they did, we had to just take what we could get.
Because I'm glad you're telling us what you want. Don't tell us what you don't want. Tell us what you want. But doing all the stuff we just heard is a lot of work. Like it's a lot of trying to figure out what we can do and what we can't do and what we got the money to do. But we surely don't want y'all to start losing membership because you can't do things. We help with recreation and we do it through 501c3s. I guess that's what y'all are, right?
Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
So I just want to make sure you have a way to go while if there's a way to work this out, we can do it. I know they did that years ago. Ron said years ago, did something as far as land somewhere, and I don't know where that
I think it
was.
was at Winfield.
I don't know, it seemed like it was around 2000, somewhere there and about, that, someone came to the board about, a riding club. And we talked about, they want a maximum of 20 acres. We said that we would do that in stages if we decided to go to Winfield with it. At that time, Ever who was heading that up was when we had some plans and all drawn up, so we could start putting prices to what it would take to develop a riding club center, and never heard anything else from anybody. So before the board can even think about funding any project, we need to know, we need to have plans. And so, we can put the numbers to those plans and see what it costs to develop a project.
Would you like for us to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we can do that. Ma'am? Sure, come on up here.
I can't hear you.
They can't hear you, sister.
Before we could actually do any accurate planning, we'd have to know kind of the state of the land we were getting, whether we would have to clear it, whether we would have to level it. But that would all have to be factored in our plans. We can come up with the arena and the lighting and probably our building. We can get estimates on that. But that'd be as far as we could go until we knew the state of the land that we were going to use.
Yeah, it says 20 acres. Why, I would see starting out with 20 acres to develop and clear 20 acres when it's not gonna be developed. It's gonna be developed in stages anyway. The county own all that land, so as you grow, we can add additional land to it.
So you
So
would
the-
need
and-
just the basic, the
Ma'am?
arena, you would need the basics, the arena, the lighting and all.
As much as you can do, because clearing land, Kevin Kirby can clear land, so
Okay.
we're not worried about that. Getting land, getting land
Kevin,
flat.
somebody just
Get
got
land flat.
volunteered.
Yeah, he's on the end down there.
Mr. Kevin.
He knows how to make something flat, so.
Thank you, Mr.
Ju-
Kevin.
Just the main stuff that is
Okay.
unusual, like arena, the gates, the stuff that
Yeah,
you
the
need.
panels and stuff like that.
Stuff like that.
Okay.
The land's, that's up in the air right now about where it's gonna be, what it's gonna be, and
Okay. All right. I'd like to, thank you. Thank you, Cheryl. The tractor that we're using, I have to throw this in. The tractor that we are using currently was donated to us by the county. We're still using that same tractor. It's still rolling.
That's been a long time ago.
Yes, sir, it sure is. And we have that thing serviced and it is rolling. I'm so proud of that old tractor. I know the Lord's given it the spirit to do it. And so is that it? Am I done?
Yes, well, you told us what you need, and y'all work up the plan on what's happening there, but in the meantime, go ahead.
Ma'am, you got to come to the podium and give your name to the clerk.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Osgood. I'm the Vice President of the Columbia County Writing Club. Question, how soon do you want this information?
I mean, as soon as you can get it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a rush, 2 days or anything, but, you know.
We don't
Okay.
have to do it tomorrow.
Mr. Chair, if I
Anything
may,
is possible.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just asked David, end of June, July, coming up upon us pretty quick. We're in the middle or the early stages of our budget process. And when entities come to the Board of County Commissioners, this is the type of stuff that you would have, a business plan, what have you, exactly what y'all are alluding to. So, I would suggest, I don't want to put David on the spot for the exact, because I don't even know that we've actually set the date for the exact meeting. But one of your representatives can get with Mr. Kraus here, he's the county manager, and once he gets that date set aside for that particular a part of our budget process, when people come from the community and ask for support on whatever. And some get it, some don't, just depends on, how far the
We've been waiting a long
dollars go.
time.
Yeah. But
Waiting a long time to try and get this going.
He's
So
just saying it
we-
isn't indefinite. We are like a government has to be. We budget and then we don't try not to go outside our budget. So we gotta figure that out. We'll know the meeting. Just stay in touch with David and talk to him about it. He'll know when that date is. He'll know that pretty well.
This is a good start, at least you get your plan together, and you got to start somewhere, and this be a
We've
great
got a
time.
lot of time.
Yeah, we need some kind of ballpark figure on how much capital investment we're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have any idea what it would take.
Yeah,
to
it's hard,
develop
it's
what
hard
you all
for us
want.
to think about what it's gonna cost. So.
We will get that for you.
All righty.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. All right.
See you later.
Thank you.
Better not promise something you can't do.
Special Olympics.
We really appreciate y'all coming.
Till everybody exits here. Good evening, everybody. My name is John Robles, and I am the Regional Director for the Northeast Florida of Special Olympics Florida. I was trying to cue him. There we go. So with me today, I have Lisa, and she is a Tier 3 tennis coach here in Columbia County. And I also have an athlete, Travis Ford, that will be speaking along with me. Not on here as presenters is Marcy McAdams, and I will be talking about her as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity for us to be able to present in front of your board. Special Olympics Florida, we provide year-round sports training and competition to individuals with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities. Currently, we serve 61,000 athletes in the state of Florida. That number has grown from 25,000 since the last 8 years. So in 8 years, we have more than doubled the amount of athletes that we are serving. Here in Columbia County, we serve over 250 athletes, and we provide them with not only one sport, we provide them with 22 different sports that they are able to choose from and participate. Besides the sports, we also have programs like Healthy Athletes. With Healthy Athletes, we provide any medical needs that our athletes need. For example, we do different medical clinics when they go to area games or county games or state games. We'll have doctors there that will check their eyes. If they need prescription glasses, we provide those for free for our athletes. We pay for those for them. We also have audiology, so they will check their ears. Pretty expensive, about $5,000 per set on these hearing aids. We provide those also for free for our athletes. So throughout the whole state of Florida, we spend almost $2.5 million just on health incentives for our athletes. Why? Our athletes, 80% of our athletes come from low or just poverty level. They just don't have the money to be able to do it. A lot of them are rural, and our athletes just don't have that facility to be able to go to and have that referral to that doctor that is going to understand what intellectual and developmental disability is. I'm here to tell you today, they're just like us. They're people just like us. They just learn differently. People with autism just learn differently. That's the only difference. People with Down syndrome, they have an extra chromosome. We call that a superpower for them, right? And we actually make sure that say you have a superpower, you have one more chromosome than anybody else. They're doing incredible things around the state. We also have Unified Champion Schools. That's been a great program as far as combining athletes with individuals without disabilities. So they're playing on the same team, they're playing together, and they compete at county level. They go to our regional games, and they go to state games. Our state games are held at ESPN World Sports in Orlando. One of the best venues for our athletes to be able to shine. And we have quite a bit of athletes that participate from here, from Columbia County as well. All those athletes get to go together and compete. If they win at state games, they actually get an opportunity to compete at USA Games. We were proud to host our USA Games last year here in Orlando, Florida, where we hosted 5,700 athletes from all over the United States. Proud to report that we had 580 athletes from the state of Florida, and we took just about every gold and silver that was out there to be taken. So we did really, really good to represent the USA. Athlete leadership. We teach curriculum to our athletes. We actually have an athlete leader here today, Travis Ford, and we teach them to self-advocate. We don't want to be out there just talking about them. We want them to talk about themselves, self-advocate. They do that very well, and we have the different courses to be able to teach them how to speak in public. I have one of the speakers that speaks in front of 5,000 people. 5 years ago, before the courses, they would be in a corner right now, like this officer over here, just shying away because they would just not want to talk to anybody. They were just really, really shy. So changing lives with that. Young athletes, we have a young athlete program. They start at 2 years old and it goes from 2 to 7. It's the cutest one we have. They're really tiny. The purpose of it is for them to be able to increase their motor skills and their personal abilities. It is also unified, so not just children with intellectual disability, but also those without. They grow up together in these programs. We've seen it over the last 8 years to where they grow up together, they go to school, and it's measurable. We have reduced bullying through this program by 78%, measurable throughout the state of Florida. Motor activity training program is for those who are severely disabled. So we have programs for them also to be able to participate. And then we also have Camp Shriver that we have throughout the state of Florida. It's a summer camp that we have for our athletes. Special Olympics, we provide everything for our athletes. We provide training, uniforms, transportation, all the meals, the lodging, like I mentioned, prescription glasses and hearing aids, completely free of charge. Next one. Our philosophy and vision, we believe that if our athletes receive instruction and encouragement, constant training, and compete among those that have equal abilities, the results come out with stronger families, personal growth, unified communities, and an environment of equality, respect, and acceptance. How we're unique. We're the only sports organization, the largest one in the world also, that does not charge 1 penny for our athletes to be able to compete. 0. We pay for everything for them. So fundraising happens to be really, really important, and that's why I'm standing in front of you today as well, to be able to support those athletes here in Columbia County. We also offer opportunities for athletes of all different abilities. We're not going to put somebody that runs a 10-second 100-meter against somebody that's going to do it in a minute. That's not fair. So we have different divisionings for them to be able to do it. So everybody has equal participation. Not everybody gets a trophy in this. You have to earn it, and our athletes really do. We also have higher levels of competition. For those who advance from state games, they get to go to USA Games. We currently have a team from Alachua County. It's a unified team from UF in Gainesville that's over in Berlin, Germany right now, representing Special Olympics USA. And it's a basketball team. They're incredible, and we expect a gold medal out of that one too. So here's our numbers for Columbia County. We have total participants of 239. This just increased. Marcy McAdams just informed me that this just increased because we had bowling, 23 added for bowling. So we're over 250 participants currently. That's just our athletes, unified partners. We have our young athletes in there as well. But then coaches, look at that number, 31 coaches that are certified, and then 51 volunteers that are certified to be able to help us.
That's here.
That is here in Columbia County. Yes, sir.
That many volunteers?
Yes, sir. Yes. So that's everybody that is registered to be able to help us. Are they active all the time? No, because we have different sports. So we follow the sporting throughout the whole year. A lot of people ask, when Special Olympics? When does that happen? Is it every 4 years? It's every day. It's every single day. We have all the sports throughout the whole year. So we always have an opportunity for these athletes to get involved. Next one, please. So you'll see here 22 different Olympic type sports. Really proud of triathlon. Triathlon, everybody said now there's no way that somebody with intellectual disability or Down syndrome could do a triathlon. Well, we're here to say that we started a program 6 years ago. Chris Nickage, if you Google Chris Nickage, you will see he is the first person in the world with Down syndrome to complete a full Ironman. Full Ironman. Okay, so you have 17 hours to complete an Ironman. You have to swim 2.5 miles. Then you have to ride a bicycle for 112 miles. And then you have to run a full marathon for 26 miles. Show of hands, how many people think in this room could do that?
I can't run into that hall.
Right? So
I'm getting tired of listening to you.
So I tell you what, it's big. It's big. What he accomplished is big. So he's in the Guinness Book of Records of the first person to ever do it. He also went to New York as a professional athlete and won an ESPY for his accomplishment. Tim Tebow gave him the ESPY, and he loves Tim Tebow. So it was a great moment for him. So it just goes to show our athletes, They train just as hard as any other professional athlete. We're just that sponsor. They don't have Nike and Gatorade. They have Special Olympics. They have us to be able to support them. Well, except for Chris Nikic. He is sponsored by Adidas. He's a professional athlete. So his story, real quick, his father came to me 6 years ago and said, they just told me to put him in a group home. That's all that Chris will be able to do. I looked at him and said, absolutely not. Let's try him in triathlon. Change his life. Absolutely, this program has changed his life. So you see a lot of different sports. Like I said, our athletes start at 2 years old and they go all the way up to, they never age out. Our athletes never age out. I have an 87-year-old man that plays basketball from the 3-point, and that's his spot, and he still makes it. He made a shot at the state championship, which won us the game, and he looked at me and says, "Yep, I still got it, John," and he walked away. It's just incredible. These people are incredible. We're also adding things since they're aging. We have added pickleball. So we have pickleball, and this year we just tried something new. You guys have heard of cornhole? We're going pro with cornhole. Okay, so we're bringing that to Special Olympics, and that's something that anyone can do. So we're really looking forward to that. Healthy communities, I mentioned that we do opening eyes, we check their vision, we do physical therapy. We have a lot of people volunteering with that. We have dentists that volunteer and check their teeth. A lot of these athletes just don't have the opportunity to have that. Audiology, Fit Feet. We have Nike is very gracious with us. At state games, they provide us free sneakers from Nike. So our athletes always want to go through that Fit Feet and have their feet checked. Why? Because at the end, they know they're getting a pair of sneakers. And they absolutely love that. So to end, this is putting it all together. Training is our main key. Competition is our means. The outcome, we want to support the athletes. Whatever they want to do, we want to support their dreams. And that is why we're here. That's why we're here. Without our coaches, nothing ever happens. So I would like to bring up one of our coaches so she could give her testimony.
Good evening. I was not prepared for this, so please excuse me. You just gave me a heads up 2 minutes before, as soon as I sat down. So I have been a tennis player throughout my life, and blessed with a tennis family now. Both my girls play tennis. One's into Special Olympics. She's been playing tennis for the past 3 years now. She's Lizanne. She's been playing for Columbia County. She's won 2 gold medals and 1 silver, which she was because of her mistakes. Of course, she realized that. So we are here for all your support and help that y'all can give us. She's had an amazing 3 years till now, and we hope it continues. I am the tennis coach and helping out for the association, for the Lake City Association down here for tennis, and also going to be the pickleball coach soon. Hopefully, we do good in that one too, because it's very close to tennis. For now, I would like to thank for all the support till now that Columbia County has given us, not only for tennis, but also for all the athletes. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for that. So before I bring up Travis and Marcy, Marcy just goes, "Are you going to tell him what you need the money for, John?" I'm like, "It's in the letter that I send them." So Randy has that. However, I will say it publicly. We are looking to double the amount of athletes that we have participating here in Columbia County over the next 2 years. Very aggressive plan that we have, but we have all kinds of sports, like I said, including equestrian, because they practice at Lake City, what is it? Christian Academy, Lake City Christian Academy. So we have riders there. And actually, a couple of them got some gold medals at state games when they came out last year. So they're doing very well with that as well. I'm going to bring up Travis Ford, one of our athlete leaders, and he has some words as well. This gentleman is an incredible power lifter. He does powerlifting and he lifts almost, I think it was 958 pounds, your last one? That's right. I can't do that.
Hi, my name is Travis Ford, and I am an athlete leader with Special Olympics representing Columbia County. I have been involved in Special Olympics for over 10 years. I compete in powerlifting at the area, regional, and state competitions where I have received gold medals in my weight class. I am here tonight to thank you and for supporting Special Olympics.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much.
I saved the best for last. Marcy McAdams is not only incredible here in Columbia County, but throughout the whole state of Florida. She is what we call one of our key volunteers. The programs that we have here in Columbia County would probably not exist if it wasn't for Marcy McAdams. This woman is incredible. I just got chills saying it. She is family. We love her to death, and I'm gonna bring her up to talk about it.
Hi, my name is Marcy McAdams, and I've been a volunteer in Columbia County for over 22 years. Got a call from John Brown one day saying, can you come help me run our summer games at Columbia High School? And since then, I have volunteered in the county, at the county level, at the area level, at the regional level, and state level. I am the awards person that presents awards to the athletes for the whole state of Florida. So every single state event, I'm there. So I get to see all the smiles on all the faces and hugs, and they call me, you're that awards lady. That's how they know me. So it is the most incredible opportunity that I've ever had in my entire life. And that day that John Brown called me and asked me to volunteer, and I showed up to volunteer, I have been volunteering ever since. I'm the county coordinator for Columbia County. We hold bowling events here. We just had the high school is coming back. After COVID, we were unable to get the high school back involved, but they are starting out with bowling this year. Lake City Christian Academy has now joined as their bowling coaches and also athletes. So we have young athletes bowling. Columbia City Elementary School has a program for little young athletes, little elites, where they have a field when they are having field days for all their athletes, which we'd like to get this spread to all the schools, and we will slowly get back there into the school system, I hope. So it's really important for us to be able to keep our equipment up to date, our uniforms up to date, and the things that our athletes need, transportation, just having things like the bowling alley. Special Olympics pays for us, for our athletes to bowl at Columbia Bowling, at the Lake City Bowling Alley. And it is, go there one day when they're practicing. It is full. The entire bowling alley is full with kids and adults with special needs. That is a big sport here. We mentioned pickleball. Pickleball is a sport that we're going to need to do a presentation to the people that are now running Richardson, because we have to pay for that unless we can present to them and they allow us to go there and be able to practice pickleball, because we're Special Olympics. So we will do a presentation for Richardson also to let them know we would like to be able to have our athletes be able to come there and not get charged to be able to play there. So like I said, we really appreciate you guys listening and giving us the time. If you ever get a chance to volunteer, I'm telling you, you won't ever want to not do that. It is the most incredible, rewarding experience you'll ever have. I'm going to read something real quick. It's the volunteer oath that I've gotten to do many times over my lifetime of volunteering, but it just speaks to why volunteers do what they do. I promise to give the time in my life, so my time, so that the Special Olympics athletes can have the time of their life. And they do. I'm telling you, there is not one athlete that's not smiling when they're performing whatever sport it is that they participate in. Lizanne, I see Lizanne, I see Travis at their sports, high five every single time. It is the most incredible thing to watch them play. I promise to support Special Olympics, not just as an expression of charity, but as a form of respect for my fellow human beings. These kids and these athletes and these adults that come out to perform and do these sports, when you see the amount of ability and the emphasis they put in to just be the best person they can possibly be, they don't care whether they win or not. That's a bonus. If that happens to happen and they get a gold medal, that's great. But other than that, they're just there because they want to be able to get better at what they do. And every time they show up and every time they practice, every time they perform at a state game or a regional game or an area game or a county game, they get that much better. but also as a respect for my fellow human beings. I promise to spread the word of volunteerism because in giving, I'm the one that gets that much more back in return. Just being there and being able to be a part of this organization is incredible. So, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that concludes our presentation. Any questions?
Well, we appreciate what you all do. If you're looking for funding, you need to make a request for next year's budget.
We did.
Do you have the request?
Yes, we send it in, actually, Stephen Bailey sent it in on our behalf.
It's in your
So-
agenda packet.
We'll address it during the budget process.
Yeah, we'll address it during the budget process.
Okay.
And you know, I've been to a couple of those events way back in the day, and the sportsmanship will make you happy because you don't see a lot of sportsmanship anymore. And the volunteers, staff and the volunteers there, everybody's happy. Nobody leaves with a sour face. Nobody's mad. The athletes aren't mad. That everybody's happy when they leave a Special Olympics event. You know, nobody's mad or throwing their glove down, or it's really kind of, it's different. It's a wonderful thing. Like I said, it's all positive. Everything y'all do is positive. There's never a negative experience, in my opinion, the ones I've seen. And it's a really important thing for this county. And I was surprised that 250. So you think that you have room to bring a whole lot more?
100%. The growth is coming from the children. So a lot of people ask, you know, why is it growing so much? You went from 25,000 to 61,000 in the state of Florida. A lot of it has to do with the food that we consume, all these different preservatives and color additives, these different things. Some people say it's, you know, it could be the vaccines and things that are causing things. We're just seeing it as it goes progressing. I mean, our largest group right now, 43% of the growth is coming from ages from 2 to 7. But we have that group there, and we have the parents that know all the resources to be able to help these parents, because they'll come into our office and go, I don't know what I'm doing. This is the first child I have with it. We don't know what to do. What do we do? And we have the Marcy's of the world and different people that just say, hey, we have the resources, come in, we'll help you. And mothers really, really appreciate that. Dads do too.
We appreciate what you do. I'm glad I met everybody and was able to talk to you about it.
Thank you so much for your time. We would like to invite you out also. We're looking to host one of our area games here in Columbia County. We would love for somebody on the board to come out just as a representation so we could have you as part of our opening ceremonies.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good night.
Meridian?
Good evening, folks. It's good to see you again. My name is Don Savoy. I'm the president and CEO of Meridian. And if it's all right with the chair, I'm going to go a little off script and really just talk to you about some of the things that we have going on here in Columbia County, if that's okay with you. So a couple of important things. Meridian is celebrating, we're just wrapping up our 50th year of service to Columbia County and the North Central Florida region. That's a pretty big milestone for an organization that's 501c3 dedicated to healthcare and behavioral health for the community. I also want to let you know that you are well served on Meridian's board of directors. Tina Seifert from Columbia County is the chair of Meridian's board, and I'll tell you, she keeps me in line. She's a great person and gives a lot of time and effort to Meridian and what we do. Again, I'm just going to kind of go through some, for the sake of time, some of the things that are important to the community that we have going on. Telehealth services, the folks from Alachua County, we've served this year through our fiscal year starts in July and runs through June. Just over 1,100 individuals. That's on par with some of the biggest the 2021, 2022 things we saw with COVID. The difference is we've serving over 5,000 services via telehealth to Columbia County residents so far in this year. And why is that important? Transportation becomes a #1 barrier for folks receiving treatment and remaining in treatment. And we've been able to do that with giving out free tablets, cellular and other opportunities really to get people engaged in services. Telehealth is not the be all end all, but it's a mode of treatment that works for folks. And we extend that to Columbia County and really all this region. I want to let you know, we opened up a medication assisted treatment clinic in Live Oak. And we've run into this before in Alachua County. The question, they said, well, why are you moving out of our county? And here's the thing. We only have so much capacity and slots here in Columbia County. And we're sort of busting at the seams. If we can serve the folks from the northern counties there, it opens up greater access here for us to serve more folks from Columbia County. We've done that with Marion. We've done that with Palatka. And I think it's important that we serve people locally and give access, especially when you see grandparents and neighbors bringing folks to services and treatment. You got to make it as accessible as possible. It shouldn't be that hard from a substance abuse service standpoint. So that's something that's growing. Meridian opened up what's called the Lodge at Meridian down in Alachua County, and I was surprised, very positively surprised to see 6 Columbia County residents this past year had 358 bed days. Well, why is that important? Nobody pays for the lodge. We purchase the motel, but when we work with someone for recovery and we put them through detox and addictions recovery, sending them back to the same environment where they were at previously, they're going to recidivate back through the system. They're going to start using again. We're going to run into those problems. So what we do is we purchase the motel to temporarily house folks. Well, we work with them on employment, other housing, and other social supports that are going to change their lives for the good. And we've seen a strong reduction in readmission rates. To give you an idea, with the managed Medicaid plans for the CS, crisis stabilization and addictions receiving, the average 30-day readmission is 34%. So 34% of the folks statewide that go through crisis stabilization or addictions receiving recidivate back through the system within 30 days. Meridian's readmission rate hovers between 9 and 11% because we do these other social supports to make the difference. And our 650 plus employees are really proud of that because it means that we're changing lives. It means we're breaking the cycle with some of the things we've seen. Although right now it exists in Alachua County, we need to have an addictions receiving facility up here. When folks are received here, they end up going down to Gainesville. They receive services there. They're too far away from their loved ones and their supports. So I'll talk a little bit about Lakeshore Hospital and the things we're trying to do there in a second, but that's where it ties all together about breaking the cycle and making some difference for folks. We enhanced our primary care this last year up in Columbia County. You may or may not know, we have a primary care clinic in our Lake City campus. Why do we do that? Folks with mental illness typically pass 25 years sooner than someone without a mental illness. Well, that's just not fair. And it's usually due to co-occurring physical conditions, medical conditions that are not addressed. So opening a primary care clinic means that we can serve the whole person. Wow. Be a health home and really improve people's healthcare outcomes. We also signed on as a medical home for folks with the managed Medicaid plan, Centene, the Sunshine Plan. It's the largest plan in the area, and it really does make a difference in changing lives. And we've done that here in Columbia County. We also heard back in 2018, 2019 from the Lakeshore Hospital Authority that primary care was less available to folks. So again, we made it a strategic priority to open primary care up here. Right now for the folks that we serve, but as we move and we get into Lakeshore Hospital, if that comes to be, we will open that up to the community as well, the general community. Williams Manor. This past winter in January, we opened up Williams Manor, which is a group home here in Lake City. This is a residential facility that for the last 10 or 15 years have been used as a administrative building and supports. We moved folks out. I just couldn't have a building that has a need for, that's able to house folks with mental illness operating as an administrative building. So this December, we opened it. We already have 13 of the 16 beds filled. And what we're seeing is it's largely folks from the community that are getting older and had been managed by their parents, which are aging out and passing. And they're either ending up in the state hospital or other facilities, but we know we want to keep them in the community and keep them served. Well, it serves everybody and it exists here in Lake City. It's predominantly Columbia County residents that are in Williams Manor. So we're pretty excited to have that open and moving forward. The other thing we have here that's expanded is our children's residential facility on our campus. 22 adolescents and almost 1,300 bed days. We have higher utilization from Columbia County children since we opened the program this year than any previous year. So again, we're making a difference in young folks' lives and really growing the services we see here. The way I look at it is when Meridian serves right now 14 core counties, but Lake City, Columbia County, and Alachua are the two hubs. We try and offer the greatest array of inpatient and outpatient service in those two hubs. And then you'll see we're in all the other counties that we serve. But it's sort of like rings. We'll provide outpatient services, for example, in Jasper and Live Oak. We'll expand based on the volume we see. But again, just like a hospital system, we grow vertically within our core communities, and that is Alachua and Columbia County. So as you see the rings go out, whether it be Dixie, Levy, or others, they'll have outpatient, they'll have telehealth, they'll have other things, but our core vertical from inpatient psychiatric hospitalization, intensive outpatient, all the way down, we build into those core communities. Talk a little bit about Lakeshore Hospital building. You've probably seen in the news and probably heard that Meridian is working to stand that up as a psychiatric hospital. The need is growing in this community. We're seeing a lot of what you're seeing the census grow, and mental health and addictions. You know, the numbers are still the same. Mental health is 1 in 5, addiction is 1 in 9. We all know someone. We all know someone that needs help. We need to provide that quality care. Well, right now, Meridian's busting at the seams at our campus here in Lake City, and we're not able to have an addictions receiving facility. There is no psychiatric hospital in this region. You either have to go to Tallahassee, Jacksonville, or Gainesville, and you're taking folks out of the region. The other thing is Medicare doesn't allow for crisis stabilization as a funding source. So when we can add a psychiatric hospital, what we can do then is serve Medicare population within the community as well as everybody else. So what we're looking to do, that's a significant need. And I don't see this community slowing down. You know, you're at the crossroads of 75 and 10. There's business coming. There's a lot. We're seeing basically things increase. And we're seeing the demand for services increase. And we just can't maintain on the campus we have. So some of the things we're looking to put in the hospital building very quickly: crisis support emergency, 24/7, 365. That's walk-in plus law enforcement and emergency access. Crisis stabilization will move over from our existing campus so that we can expand there. A new service called 23-hour observation, which means we can hold people overnight so that we can get them to psychiatric and other things in the morning, counseling and other care. Whereas right now, we don't have any ability to manage folks overnight. We'll schedule an appointment. The likelihood they come back the next day is not that great. So that managed oversight is going to make a difference. Also, I mentioned the addictions receiving facility. We'll stand that up very quickly. And then the third floor will become a psychiatric hospital that can serve Medicare and others. Last thing I wanted to mention to y'all is in the next 2 months, you'll see a lot of information about Text for Help. So for the young adolescents and school age, we are starting to get into texting for access and help. A licensed clinician will respond in under 3 minutes, and we'll work with our mobile response teams, which are here in the area, to really work to de-escalate folks. We're seeing a higher prevalence of death by suicide by adolescents and young adults. Our goal with Text for Help is to engage with them and make a difference within that care. So that's a lot. We have a commitment to the community. That's sort of you know, a growing thing for us. We're asking for a 2.1% increase to 261,378, or really 5,376 over last year's approved budget of 256,000. I'll gladly ask any questions you have, any concerns you have, and try and answer them. I hope you see that you know, our first 50 years. We've really grown, and we want to be here and continue to grow for the next 50 years. Thank you, folks. Any questions?
If y'all are successful in pulling the Lakeshore project off, what kind of employment do you anticipate?
About 175 employees are what we expect will come over to the hospital. About 75 will be from the existing crisis stabilization and crisis support emergency. The other 100 will be net new for the other programs. We're also looking, it'll take a little bit longer, but the 4th floor and the 2nd floor will end up being what's called an SRT, a short-term residential facility. And that's for folks coming out of the state hospital and other things while we engage them back into the community. And the forensic is the same thing, but with the jail population locally.
You're telling me 100 new jobs.
Yes. Any other questions?
On, who we serve in Columbia County, 34% are unspecified others. Who are they?
So when we get demographics and we get information for folks that come in crisis, we try and get that information. With telehealth and things we've seen over the last 3 years, if you look at the previous, we could get the demographics on folks. We're getting less information, or people are unwilling to give the information, and you'll see that that's increased really across all our counties. So they're broken out typically into the same categories, but I asked the same question that you're asking about 6 months ago when I started looking at the data, preparing for the county meetings. We're just not getting that level of detail from folks.
But based on your percentages there, that 34% is almost a third of the people that you are treating.
That's
It's unspecified.
Yep. If someone comes in to the CSU or other programs and they're not willing to give us race or ethnicity, we don't push the issue and we continue to serve just like we would everybody else.
But you get other information from them except for the nationality.
We may not get age for a while. We may not get some other things. We don't get payers even when they have payers. We're working to de-escalate the crises, and we don't always get that information. We will work to get that as we move forward, but we're seeing a lot less openness on first and second visit. Now we could get it before discharge, and we're probably doing a pretty poor job of it. To be honest.
Well, we are beginning to start our 2023-24 budget workshops, and we'll take your request under consideration.
Okay. If you have any other questions offline, the last page has my contact information. Please, any one of you, I'm always open to a phone call, and we'll be glad to answer that. Also, you all probably run into folks that need help. Please don't be shy to pick up the phone. Give me a call. I coordinate for folks all the time. We're here to help.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Waste Pro. Quick.
Sorry. I'm just shorter, a lot shorter. Thank you, Commission Chair. Thank you, Commission, City staff, or excuse me, County staff. My name is Dana Miller. I represent Waste Pro of Florida, and I'm accompanied by Frank Kramer. He's the division manager here at the Lake City Division, right here in Columbia County. There you go. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you tonight. And we come before you tonight asking for consideration of a rate adjustment due to unusual costs and circumstances, which I'll go into. When we submitted our proposal in 2021, I know all of you distinctively remember the results that came in. And this slide just shows you who proposed, what the prices per home per month were. This is the residential side of things. And on there, you'll also see, of course, our proposed new rate that we would like you to consider. Even with our proposed new rate, we've provided on this slide what the savings are still over the other two proposers. This is just a historical, just to see where we started in 2021. Today's market conditions back then could not have really been forecasted or even considered at the time when these rates were submitted. And that was only, as you remember, it was only a year and a half, 2 years ago. Could you skip for me to the fourth slide by chance? One more. Thank you. I know as a commission and as a county, I know that you were very familiar with some of the items on this list and some of the hurdles that have had to be overcome. And one of the major ones that I know both private sector and public sector have to overcome is labor. And in particular, not just having to increase salaries and rates for income for your employees, but you're competing with other industries as well. And for example, our garbage industry, we compete for CDL drivers and mechanics with other industries, not even just the solid waste industry. I know some of the gentlemen and ladies here in the audience probably understand that as well. Fuel has gone up. I know that affects everyone in this room, whether you're using diesel or just regular gasoline. And you'll see the percentages from 2021 when we submitted the proposal till now for steel, that's for dumpsters and for equipment, tires, different kinds of tires, and truck parts. We're also encountering supply chain bottlenecks. So we're encountering where sometimes we're having to order a little more in bulk because we need to project out longer term because we're not getting supplies and truck parts and things in as quick as we used to. So now we're having to buy more to keep an inventory. And there's still a driver shortage. There's more jobs available than people that want to drive. And as a side note, the solid waste industry is not traditionally a sexy industry. You're working in rain, like today, you're working in heat. And we're finding that, I'm sure the county, you're finding that maybe in your public works department, that as people are retiring, there's not as many to replace the retired spots. Can you go back to the second slide for me? This second slide is a comparison. Oh, no, one more. Go forward. I'm sorry, I should have said third slide. Thank you. This is just doing a comparison on the commercial rates that were submitted, what was submitted and by the other bidders, by ourselves, and our proposed rate per yard. And at the bottom, we did a calculation for overall savings of residential and commercial based on the proposed rate adjustment that we would like you to consider to show that you're still you are still saving over the other bidders that submitted a year and a half ago. In taking a look at the North Florida area, these are over the last year or so, these are some of the RFP results that have been turned in from Jacksonville to St. Mary's in Georgia to Fernandina Beach and down to Palm Coast. You'll see the old rates versus the new rates that the municipality went with. And there's a variety of haulers on this. Fernandina Beach is with Waste Management, for example. St. Mary's is with Meridian. City of Palm Coast is with FCC. Jacksonville Beach has us, for example. We are all generally in the same boat, and and again, like I said, some of the cost, the increases in cost, is not just industry specific. It is absolutely public and private sector across the board. Going back to the labor, you can go one more for me, please. Going back to the labor, like I said, we're competing with other industries, but also something to consider, especially because we're one of your vendors and we hire local like most of your vendors do. We want our employees to be in a position to be able to support their families, have a great quality of life, and still be able to manage through these tough economic conditions that aren't predicted to change anytime soon. We are proud that we're able to do that. We're proud that we're able to provide that kind of a quality of life for our employees and for your neighbors. Again, we appreciate being able to present to you today. Obviously, I'm here for any questions, and so is Frank. I want to thank David and Kevin and staff for meeting with us and reviewing this with us. And I want to thank them for their recommendation to the board. And our ask is that you take our request under consideration, whether it's tonight or if it goes to your budget workshops.
Comments, board?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm looking at this 45% increase in diesel wholesale. Is that different than retail? I mean, is diesel, because I know 18 months ago, I own a diesel, so I was paying over $5 for gas. Now I'm paying $3.40, $3.50. So is that a average starting from back then to now, or is that what you think it's going to be?
I'm Frank Kramer, representative of Waste Pro.
'Cause
I actually brung what we was paying. And,
I'm just basing it on what I see in the street. I can't really, I don't have any paper like you do, but I don't.
we buy straight from GW Hunter here in, in Columbia County. Back in March of 21, we was paying $2.62 a gallon. To March of this year, we was paying $3.79 a gallon. That's just where
So the person, like when I go buy diesel, it's different for me. I would think y'all would have a better rate than that.
we get a little bit of a break, but it's not much.
But what I'm saying is, your dates you're giving me, I'm just asking because I need to be clear on this. The dates y'all are giving me, I know for a fact I'm paying less for diesel today than I was 20 months ago. I just know it. And this says you're not. So I'm just wondering how that can happen in the commercial industry. It seems like the commercial industry have a little better pricing. In other words, if you're going to buy as much diesel as y'all do, and I know y'all use a lot, it would seem that 45% more, I don't see it on the retail market, which they care a lot less about us than they do you. And I don't see a 45% increase from what I was paying those many months ago. I think even 20 months ago, it was one of the highest. Got a record of it. United States average, East Coast, whatever. $5.50 1 year ago, and now it's $3.70, $3.80. I'm just going with retail. I don't know what commercial is, but it's hard for me to see that number. And I mean, I don't understand how gas is so high for y'all and it's not high for anybody else. As high as it was. I think
It's definitely came down over the peak, but we
Right.
didn't go at the peak of it. We went, 2 years ago when we put the bid together to now.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago when we put the bid together, like I said, we was spending 262 and now we're spending, 379.
Okay. I want to look at these numbers because it just seems like, and 40%, is the city getting a 40% increase?
The city gets an increase every year. They got CPIs built into
Okay.
theirs. And
So have they
some
gotten a
years it's-
40% increase in the last 20 months?
probably not in the last 20 months, but over the
When was
last
our-
few years, there's one year the CPI was close to what, 9%. We got
When
that
was our
information
bid
in.
done? 20 months ago?
About that, yeah.
So
we
they
only put
haven't
it
gone up
together.
40%. Is there something?
Probably not, but they got more increases built in through theirs through every year, where we didn't
Okay.
want to try to come back every year and beg and plead and borrow. We're trying to cover ourselves through now to the end
Right.
of the contract and what we've seen happen over the last couple of years.
So-
And to be honest, I thought everything was going to start trying to settle back down after the pandemic, and it just didn't.
Well, that's one of my arguments here. I believe everything is settling down, and I'm not questioning y'all, not being mean. I represent the people of Columbia County. As you represent the city county, you know what I'm dealing with. I mean,
I do.
a 40% increase, it's gonna be a cold day before I vote for that. Or ever support that. That's 40%. So over a 20-month, on a 60-month, we're a third into the contract and y'all want 40% of what you bid for a 5-year contract. That's a lot of money. I don't, Mr. Kirby, have you ever seen anything like this? Have you ever seen a rise, a contract that come to us with this much of a rise?
No, so we have multiple amount of annual contracts. I've never seen a request. And for clarification purposes, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna speak on Mr. Kraus and my own. Nobody's met with me as it relates to this, and I'm not making a recommendation. I don't want to speak for you, but this is Waste Pro's presentation. Comment that appreciate staff's recommendation.
You're right. I've spoken with you a little bit about it. I didn't mean to insinuate that we sat down with you, but in the agenda packet, it does say there's a staff recommendation. That's what I was referring to.
And I agree with Mr. Frank there. I think things are going down, and I know diesel is going down. I looked at it a little bit last night because I was studying things, and I know that diesel is cheaper than it was 20 months ago. And I know you might have done your prospectus 24 months ago, but I believe it's cheaper than 24 months ago because I buy a lot of diesel, but
I mean, you can.
you know, I mean, we can look at it. We can look at
Yeah,
it. And I can look at your papers on that, but that still, I'm looking at the East Coast national average, and I know that you have paperwork that shows you spent more, but I can show you paperwork. I'm not saying you're wrong. I can show you any kind of paperwork. I can show you I bought.
This is
you
the
know.
bill. This ain't something I
Yeah,
grew up
I
in
know.
my bedroom. This is the bill. that we
Okay,
got.
all right. And I don't pump the gas, so I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But-
but it's not something I made up. It's not, I mean, I got it
Okay.
straight from our bill. This is what we
Well-
paid,
From our
2
vendor.
years ago to now. One of the
Well-
things I meant to bring and I did not is even the tonnage, the average tonnage per home is up. It went at the spike from the pandemic, it went up 10%. Right now, it's still running at 7% higher. We ended up putting on a 7th truck in the county that there's no way I could take off right now because our guys are still picking up the extra garbage and not getting done until 12, 13 hours a day. They're not even making the landfill at 4:30 to empty their trucks, and they start at 6:30 in the morning.
And
Well, you all very well know how we fund, the garbage pickup. It's not through the general funds or anything, through a special assessment. And the only thing I can tell you guys is that, we're in the process of the budget, coming up in less than 30 days, around 30 days, and we'll address it and talk about it then.
And, we're not here slamming our fist down saying this is what we got. We're asking for any kind of relief. Anything's better than nothing. 42% would make us, whole and carry us, we think, through the end of the contract. If it's not that, so be it. It's whatever,
I want to bring up something.
Yes, sir.
Do you know how many household garbage pickups y'all do more than you did when you started?
how many homes.
What the increase was in the amount of household pickups?
He wants to know how many house count increased,
Oh, I don't.
from then till now.
I don't.
I mean, I'm
Find
just,
that out.
Can you provide that information to
I
us?
could.
yeah, I'm just trying to help out
Absolutely.
on this
Yeah,
45% here, that's
Absolutely,
quite a bit of
yes.
money.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we get it. It's definitely shocking, but it's definitely, I mean, the numbers that we present is the numbers that we're paying. I mean, the 38% in labor is actual cost. The 45% in fuel, like I said, I got the bills that we paid that backs it up. We're not, I mean, I assure you, I didn't get 38% in an increase, but that's what we're paying in labor and drivers, office staff, helpers, you name it.
I want to ask you something else. I got to studying bills and, commercial stuff, and there's something that jumped out at me, and I'm not a numbers man so much as a lot of people are, but I see something that doesn't seem right, and I want you to check it and you get back with us on this, but, on commercial charges, y'all charge a franchise fee, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that's on profit, correct? Is that your franchise fee? That's on the
It's on
profit?
total bill.
It's on the total bill?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is that normal? Joel, is that what?
The contract calls for that fee to be charged on net revenue, not on
That-
gross. So that, I think that's, Commissioner, where there was some disconnect between the bills that you were presented and what the contract says.
Yeah, you might want to go back and look at that because it looks like to me that it's being charged on everything and the customers are paying for that. It's not just on profit. So you might want to check that out. Come back to us with that because that might affect you a little bit, but I surely don't want my constituents paying more than they're supposed to. And if it's what you're supposed to be charging, I'm happy. That's fine. But I just want to, when stuff like this happens and something comes down like this, a 40% increase, we're going to start digging and looking, and saying, what's going on, just like with the gas and on. I'm still perplexed by that. I want to find out. I buy diesel, a lot of it all the time, and I know it's down, but it might not be for y'all. But this deal with the franchise fee bothers me a little bit because I don't want the contract to be, not done exactly like it was said, and it does affect our commercial people and our businesses. I appreciate y'all coming up here.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, the recommendation was put in by staff, not Kevin or I. This is going to need to be a budget item. Obviously, it could not take effect until the next fiscal year because we still have to go through the study, the solid waste assessment, determine what the impact on the assessment would be. So without that information, you would be making a decision without knowing the impact on the assessment.
We're not fit to make a decision.
I just wanted to specify that.
We address it during the budget
We're not
workshop.
making a decision.
My apologies to county manager and assistant county manager. I was just going on what was in the agenda packet.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the master plan for Bell Road.
I want to tell y'all this fella last night, we were eating dinner and we saved a man's life. Had something stuck in his throat. He stepped over and I stepped over and I said, I'll do it first. If it don't work for me, you do it. I had him as a backup. So we did do that.
Yeah.
That was a cool deal. And to see him here this morning is really, really pretty cool. So.
Yeah. No, it was, that's kind of an awkward, something you will never forget. And that older gentleman, I mean, he was literally choking.
Yeah.
And Commissioner got behind him.
Scared me to death.
But he got that steak out and he just went right back to eating.
Didn't even slow down. Older fella, he got that steak out of his throat, wiped his mouth, said, I appreciate it. I said, I appreciate you living. And he went right back to cutting it up.
Yep.
Just a little ditty I had to throw in there. It's pretty funny.
All right. I'll pull up this presentation so I can see and talk to y'all as we advance. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I appreciate the time, the opportunity this evening to talk about a very important economic development initiative for Columbia County. My name is Victor Leota. My company is Leota Location and Design. We specialize in economic development consulting and site selection. And I created a program many years ago, my home state of Louisiana. By the way, it rains. We get as much rain in Louisiana as y'all get here, maybe more, but I think here when it rains, it's wetter. Coming through, getting wet twice today. But I will tell you that the program that we created has been implemented in 60 of 67 counties in Florida. And it's called the Strategic Sites Inventory Program, or SSI as it's referred. And I'll talk a little bit about this in the presentation. I did a lot of industrial and commercial site selection work to help companies find good, suitable locations to bring their business in the communities over 20 years. And the one thing that I found more often than not is that too many good qualified communities were losing projects to create jobs and tax revenues. They had good workforce, competitive wages, raw materials, transportation, infrastructure, utilities. The problem is it just didn't have property that was ready for development. It either had environmental problems or flood problems. Maybe it lacked utilities, et cetera. And there's too much competition out there. You may not be aware, but there's over the last 15 or 20 years, there's been what's referred to as certified sites programs around the country, where states are taking a proactive approach to finding property for economic development, where they're going through the motions of engineering and environmental due diligence to study those properties and make sure that they're ready for permitting and development. In some cases, they're spending millions of dollars to mitigate problems and or improve sites. And so the competition for good jobs and tax revenues is really pretty stout. And so we created the SSI program to go and identify property in advance so that communities have a fair chance to at least identify, work with landowners, and get competitive sites on the market to attract their target industries. So we've done that here in Columbia County through the SSI program dating back to it started in 2013. 2016 and 17, we visited with the county, with Jennifer Golf Daniels' predecessor, and ultimately reviewed property in Columbia that we thought was competitive. And so fast forward to present, we're now updating that project to revisit some of these properties. And we went after with the county to identify grant dollars through DEO to fund what we're calling a pre-master plan. And the idea is that if you go through a formal master planning process to protect these properties, before you do that, we wanted to provide you with some objective information to support whether or not that makes sense. And that's really the purpose of this project. Go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to go quick. You can always get more information through this presentation or Jennifer. So I don't want to get too deep in the weeds with you today. So I am going to move through this quickly, but please interrupt at any point if you have some questions. But of course, this will be available to you to look at beyond today. So I'll talk a little bit about the purpose description, which I've talked about, the SSI program, scope, the data, our findings, and most importantly, the recommendations and next steps for this pre-master planning project. So the next slide. Again, the purpose of this is identifying greenfield sites that have the highest and best use for economic development purposes in Columbia County. At the end of the day, you can't very well protect the ability to create jobs and tax revenues if you don't have good dirt to put in prospective companies. The project team was myself. I have a licensed landscape architect and planner by trade on our team as well. We partnered with the John Scott Daly Florida Institute of Government with Florida State University, with Dr. Jerry Parrish, who's an economist that ran the fiscal impact modeling for what if these properties were to attract the maximum amount of business investment, what that would look like for Columbia County and its residents. Again, a DEO funded project through a technical assistance grant. This is the study area, which I know all of you are very familiar with. This is the Bell Road corridor between County Road 25A, State Road 41, and of course US Highway 444 or 441. This is in total is approximately 644 acres. We identified what we call 7 greenfield sites. This does not equate to the number of parcels within this corridor. We aggregate or put together parcels to create what we call sites with an appreciable acreage that you could actually build on for commercial use. Some of the metrics, we're looking at around 92 acres on average per site, 1.7 landowners per site. The largest was 207 acres. The smallest was around 24. But the most important number is the average buildable acres per site, 53. The 53 acres average is a pretty appreciable piece of land to develop on. The reason we talk about buildable acres is because we strive, when we look at planning these properties for development, to avoid sensitive environmental areas for potential wetlands or other issues, flood zones, poor soil conditions, elevation, slope, to minimize the amount of capital investment it would take to make these sites ready for development. You can go in and develop any piece of property. I mean, you can build it out to the edges as far as what the ordinance will allow you to do, but at what cost if you have to mitigate wetlands and flood risk, et cetera. So we try to avoid that to where we can. One thing that's very, very important to note, and this is as much for public comment as it is for the commission. This project and the SSI program in which it was based, this is not about Columbia County telling landowners what they can or can't do with their property. Certainly not. It's not. I've gotten questions about this being misconstrued as eminent domain. It's certainly not. When it comes to landowners, most of this land, much of the land being privately owned, is 100% voluntary. I'm not in the real estate business. We don't know going into this what properties for sale or for lease. And in a lot of respects, we provide some incentive for landowners to want to participate by the benefits of what we can do to help market their property and ultimately put their property on the market at a competitive price. That's really what this is about, is being competitive. So I want to make that point because, again, it's 100% voluntary. Next slide. When you talk about land conservation, most of the time you think about environmental concerns. I talk about it in terms of conserving economic development. As I mentioned, it doesn't matter how competitive Columbia County is. If you want to continue to create opportunities for new job growth, but you don't have anywhere to put anybody, you're going to be hamstrung. I see a lot of land use decisions where, for example, I know housing is an issue and it's everywhere, affordable housing in particular. I've seen instances where affordable housing or housing projects could have gone in 4 or 5 different locations, but they chose to put the housing project on the last manufacturing site in a county. When that manufacturing project could have only gone in one spot, but residential could have gone in 4 or 5 other spots just as well. And so we look at this for trying to conserve the remaining properties that you have for economic development. In most counties, especially rural communities, you look and there's a lot of land out there, but if it's disconnected completely from roads and utilities, even though it may be flat, high and dry with no wetlands or other environmental concerns, it's still not going to be very competitive for a company. They have too many other choices in South Georgia, other counties in Florida, Alabama, et cetera. The SSI program, again, we really developed this program to identify greenfield properties in advance before you have a prospective company breathing down your neck looking to potentially locate, where you have to perhaps scramble or jump through a bunch of hoops to find a piece of property that would work. So the idea is to go through all of those due diligence exercises, everything you need to demonstrate that a piece of property has got good development potential for an intended land use. And we work very closely with planning and zoning officials through this process in order to make sure that this is in agreement and can be supported through future land use and comprehensive planning effort. And we have multiple intensities of use, and not every intensity fits every county. If I found a large acreage of what would on face value be an excellent heavy industrial site, doesn't mean that in Columbia County, heavy industrial is going to work here. It has to be supported by not only the site itself, but the infrastructure, and most importantly, the community. So we look for lesser intensive uses that specifically align with industry target sectors that Columbia County has through the program. So I mentioned back in 2016, through the first phase of the SSI program, we identified 33 potential sites in Columbia County. This map, you can kind of get an idea of the distribution of these sites around the county. We rank through the review process with Columbia County economic development officials and other public officials. These sites get vetted. Several get eliminated, but ultimately they get ranked 1 to 5. 1 is the site probably couldn't be supported very well for economic development because it lacks infrastructure or zoning or land use that would support it. A 5 indicates the site is about as close to development as you'll find because it's got agreement with land use and zoning and compatibility with surrounding land use, utilities, et cetera. So there were 9 sites that ranked a 4 out of a 5 or higher, and that's our cutoff point. Those are the properties you typically want to look at to try to advance to market to make sure you have competitive real estate assets ready to go to land new business investment So I'll just give you the high points here. There's three principal scopes of scope of work items for this pre-master plan. One is the idea of developing through a highest and best use determination through the master plan. We want to look at a regional impact model of what that might look like if these properties were developed, and some idea of when these properties would be taken up with project use. And I'm not going to read through, but just to give you a sample, the greenfield site identification that was done through the previous SSI work supported this. Site suitability determines how well that piece of property would support an intensity of use based on the types of projects we want to attract here. And then we go through utility and transportation assets and kind of see what it looks like there as well. And ultimately, we want to develop a cost of what it would need for improvements. And then finally make recommendations for how to protect these properties for an economic development use. We looked at target industries for manufacturing, warehouse distribution, freight logistics, perhaps aerospace and defense manufacturing because of the proximity in the market areas in Florida, and then maybe some medical and life sciences as well. We go through, look at North American Industrial Classification System, or NAICS codes, that give you a sense of the different sectors and subsectors that fall into that. Go to the next slide. Just a sample of some of the things that might fit into these industry targets. Things like animal food manufacturing, beverage, food processing, wood product manufacturing, metals manufacturing, medical equipment manufacturing, general warehousing, freight logistics, aerospace parts, and product development. This we'll kind of skip over, but you could look at it at your leisure at some point. Just the experience, the data, and the technology. There's a lot that went into this study that relies on different facets of know-how and experience. So the findings, and I'll run through these quickly. Go to the next slide. This map, if you look at it, these blue areas represent a model that we created that helps you understand land use, what would support land use intensity. And we have different models for things along the lines of heavy industrial, light industrial, agribusiness, freight logistics, RD tech, medical, et cetera. And the darker blue areas represent areas in the county that have a higher score that suggests, it's not absolute, it's not a perfect science, suggests that these land areas would support certain intensities of use. This happens to be a light industrial interstate dependent model. If you go to the next slide, you look at the boundaries in the green area and that stretch along the Bell Road corridor, the bluer areas are higher scores for these types of uses. And I would tell you that we typically want to be above a 7 in terms out of a 10 in score for suitability of the land to support the type of activity that would be good economic development for the county. Heavy industrial didn't work very well here. It scored a 3.2. Light industrial scored very well, 7.4. Agribusiness, kind of in the middle. Distribution, freight, logistics was the highest, which makes sense here, 7.8. And then R&D tech, there's some criteria there that we're missing, scored a 6.5. And then medical and business park, a 7.1. This, again, is simply an exercise to help limit the amount of geography that we have to look at in any one county, and gives us a sense on some basis of how well these properties would support an intensity of use for planning purposes. So land use, future land use, zoning is very important, obviously, for any kind of development in any county. In Florida, it's even more important because of the statutory requirements to go through land use amendments through DEO. We want to take a look at what the current land use is within the study area, some of which is within the Lake City. It's governed by Lake City and their zoning ordinances. But typically industrial, light industrial warehousing, highway interchange, ag, and rural residential, which don't necessarily fit the highest and best use based on at least our determination from our analysis. Future land use, if you go to the next slide. Future land use maps, again, a good portion of it is in the jurisdiction of Lake City, but we have industrial, light industrial, highway interchange, ag, and rural residential. So our highest and best use, and it happens to be very homogeneous, we recommend industrial, light industrial and warehousing, ILW, to be consistent throughout the entire corridor, just to make permitting consistent, to make the path of permitting, to coordinate that such that companies that want to come in, because the highest and best use being commercial here, I think could ultimately find some impediments or roadblocks if you don't have future land use and zoning that will support the highest and best use. A lot of advantages here. There are relatively flat land. There's good utility access, which is a huge benefit. There's so many communities that we work in where they've got really good, attractive land, but they either lack the direct utility access or the capacity is not going to support a big water user or the sewer for gallons per day. And I will tell you that when site consultants or prospective businesses come in, knowing what they know about how long it takes to get an engineering study done, to get the entitlements, the rights of way, to get the dollars to do the improvements, they're probably going to walk away and go to another community that has utility access ready to go. So this is a tremendous advantage. The other thing on having interstate access to both I-10 and 75 that gives you northwest and east, west, and north-south direct traffic for either bringing in materials or getting products out is a tremendous advantage. You can see that there's, and I'm sure many of you know this area. I know this is in, I believe, District 1. This represents floodplain, potential flood hazard areas and wetlands, potential wetlands. This is all still desktop data, no boots on the ground. But it's not unmanageable because we still have a lot of open areas for development. When I mentioned to you earlier about the average site being over 100 acres, but the average buildable acres is 53, it's because we're trying to avoid these areas. And you still have an appreciable amount. A lot of times, these types of conditions are taken advantage of from an engineering perspective for drainage, stormwater runoff control, stormwater detention, or retention rather, and aesthetics and other things with some of the wetlands features there. So while on face value it may look like a lot, I think it's a very workable expanse of land to work with. The other thing is workforce availability. The unemployment is not very favorable because you don't have a lot of unemployment. We look within a 45-minute drive time of these study areas, generally speaking, to kind of get a sense of total population and who's employed in the workforce. The available labor force is important at about 118,000. If you look at the target industries for the county, it's around 14,000, which is certainly not as large of a number. The idea is that if you were to attract the type of businesses that you want here, where are you going to pull the labor from? One of the obvious answers is existing employers. We've got to be careful about that. One thing you don't want to do is put pressure on your companies that have been in Columbia County for sometimes generations and ultimately bring in new companies that are going to pull their employees away. But ultimately, we have to look at that larger area outside the county. But also we have to look at, with the VOTEX, through CareerSource Florida, your universities, your vocational training, technical colleges, and start to think long-term about creating training programs that would be a good fit for the types of companies to bring in new talent and new skills for employment. All right, so now we get into the meat of this, which is the final couple of slides, few slides here with what the regional economic impact. Now, this is highly theoretical. I'll tell you that right up front. Dr. Jerry Parrish, though I believe is highly respected and has a tremendous amount of experience in looking and understanding this information and tempering data against reality to some respects. But nobody has a crystal ball, so I want to be careful about that. If you look at, these are the sites by the suitability score. There's formulas that we can use based on the available buildable area and what the type of project you're trying to put there for intensity, some idea of the gross flooring area. And then that translates into some potential number of jobs. And if you add all that up, there's a potential, I use that word very strongly, to create a little more than 4,000 jobs in this corridor alone. Next. We look at construction cost. If you were to develop the area out for all of the sites through their full potential, you're looking at potentially upwards of $2.5 billion of construction cost that could happen in the Bell Road corridor. potential labor income, to create all 4,000 jobs or so at the current wages for these types of jobs. Manufacturing and transportation and warehousing, which is some of the highest recommended uses for the property in this corridor, could translate into about $14.1 million of income in just that area alone. And then tax receipts. This would look at some estimated potential tax receipts by the land use or the types of projects. With the highest being in wholesale trade, which can be a byproduct and or a support type of sector use within this corridor. But if you look at manufacturing is over 1.1 million, et cetera. So there's a lot, I think, in terms of potential revenue to be generated by fully developing the Bell Road corridor. Last two slides, the recommendations. And again, I want to very strongly emphasize the word recommendation because we sort of do this in a vacuum with blinders on. I mean, I'm not saying that we consult with Jennifer and we know a little bit about Columbia County from our previous work here, but we try to do this within the context of being competitive, Columbia County being competitive nationally for these types of projects. What that means is, before any of this is considered, obviously your planning and zoning board, you as commissioners, because you represent not only Commissioner Williams in your district, but the neighboring districts of what this would mean. There are going to be arguments for and against this. There is in every county. So these recommendations are based on what we see from an outside party looking in, complete third party a view of this. But we do recommend what I'll outline for you. The land use amendments, which can be a heavy lift going through the state, but that's very important. We feel like to protect the economic development uses of these sites, which would lend to an update of the comp plan, but have an economic development driven comp plan. Community services, looking at affordable housing. Y'all are seeing, just like everybody, solar is going in a lot of places. That's a great need for renewable, but sometimes we're seeing solar land on good sites that could create jobs when solar could have perhaps gone somewhere else. We recommend creating a master plan committee to study this in more detail to make sure it's the right decision for Columbia County and the right decision for Columbia County residents. Then ultimately, if you want to move forward, which we would recommend master planning this area to go through that strategic process. Consider, now this isn't a trivial task, okay, when we talk about annexation. I get that. And there's a whole lot of political reasons for and against. But theoretically, to have Lake City annex some of this property for streamlined permitting, et cetera, maybe that works. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. That's not something that I can get into the details on. But we see in a lot of cases, because of utilities, when you have a municipality that can serve utilities versus a county, some cases that makes sense, sometimes not. Ultimately, your local engineering firms, your local environmental firms, I would think about engaging those folks to start some formal due diligence on these properties for whether it's phase one environmental, geotech, wetlands delineations, alta surveys, looking at engineering feasibility studies for perhaps expanding some transportation ingress, egress, and or utilities. There is a lot of money out there through the federal government as well as the state of Florida through the Florida Jobs Growth Grant Fund, the Rural Infrastructure Fund, which Columbia County certainly qualifies for, and your power partners with both co-ops and IOUs alike. They have funding in place to help for site readiness for economic development. And we work very hard through the NFEDP, so that's your regional economic development partner, the North Florida Economic Development Partnership. Jeff Hendry, who's the executive director, and Diane Scholes, who does tireless work to help rural communities identify dollars to help make improvements and market their community for economic development. They're a tremendous resource. So there are dollars out there to help fund this. Lastly, if you were to ask what the next steps were, I mentioned earlier, you can't do this without support and collaboration with planning and zoning. I think there should be a public education and outreach campaign to help the public understand why protecting these properties is so important, so that not only the current residents of Columbia County, but kids and grandkids continue to work and employ in Columbia County. but it's also protecting the jobs that you have in Columbia County and keep them here as well. Engaging landowners, again, that's a local function. That's not my job. But we want to do our level best to hope that landowners would be cooperative and want to help develop this corridor for an economic benefit to the community. Formal master plan committee form that committee with the commissioners and business leaders, identify funding sources, develop an RFP for a master plan, and ultimately master plan this project. So that's ultimately what we would think would most benefit to make sure that you can protect some of the last viable real estate in Columbia County to create jobs and sustainable tax revenues. And with that, I am very happy to answer any questions you may have.
Staff, do you have anything you need to add? Jennifer?
He covered everything. Huh? No comments.
Well, thank you very much. We got a plan. And go back to that last slide. Last slide. We can. You had me.
Easy on the man now.
No, it's a compliment. We can take this last slide and use for a blueprint. Do what we need to do on the Bell Road corridor. The things that you read about what we need to do, that's it right there. That makes the project. If we accomplish these things.
All that long-winded stuff was to justify this slide.
Yes, sir.
Because you got to answer not only to your own planning and zoning board needs to be involved, but you also have the residents, you have businesses. There's a lot to consider.
You know, it's crazy how this county's growing because I got my office sitting far from there and I thought, man, I used to quail hunt all that. We used to lease that for nothing to quail hunt and I thought, there'll never be anything out here. This is a big one. And look at what's happening. It's amazing to see property blow up like that.
But thank you very much.
Sure thing. I appreciate the time.
All right.
Thank you.
A motion to approve the consent agenda. Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. That motion carried.
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. That motion carried. Kevin Kirby.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have 5 items for your consideration, inclusive of your easement walk-on. So the first item is basically a housekeeping item, pre-employment screening. As we all know, we hire a new employee, we take certain steps, drug tests, physicals, eye exams, etc. What we bumped into, and I'll just use an example. Say a man or woman decides that they're at the landfill, they're running a sheep foot roller, they're tired of the smell, they want to transfer to Public Works, run a bulldozer. Some interpret this policy that you have to do that entire process again just because you're moving from point A to point B. This hit my lap a few days ago. I said, oh my Lord, the laborious act, the cost, that's just, in my opinion, unreasonable. So what I'm requesting for here this evening is to clean that policy up. I'm recommending a motion, approve proposed revision to the county's personnel policy and procedure manual 7, paragraph H, which simply says, if you're laterally transferring, doing like and similar duties, you don't do that big costly step. There's always exceptions. If I don't have a CDL or if I'm needing a CDL to do a job, it leaves us open, but it just disallows that interpretation, Mr. Chairman.
So moved.
Got a motion? Second. Got a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Second item we have is the foundation of traffic ops building out of Public Works. As we know, we're expanding. We got out of the contractual business that relates to red lights and intersections. We're building a team. It's been successful. This board in your capital project process approved the construction of this building. This is your first step. We had two bids, 56,626, 94,636. Recommended motion to award 2023 M to Creative Concept Design for the total amount of 56,626.58 and to approve the agreement.
So moved.
Got a motion?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, that motion carries.
Okay. Third item is out of Intermodal Park, your wastewater treatment plant, $3.359 million. Water Management District received an additional $3.359 million from the DEP, Public Access Reuse. Additional funds will increase your current grant at the sewer plant to $6.319. The attached agreement was approved this past week. Good news, recommend a motion to approve First Amendment to Memorandum of Agreement 22-23-055.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, that motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, and if I confuse anybody, stop me. You have basically a $31 million guaranteed not to exceed price for your sewer plant. Recall, when we constructed the jail, we had a $17 million not to exceed. This was a little different. We had to wait on funding. Just talked about that final 3.359 million, right? We had to bust this job up into 3 different GMPs. Back in August, this board approved the construction management at risk wastewater treatment facility to Wharton Smith. Due to multiple reasons, we had to have multiple guaranteed maximum prices. In October, the board approved the GMP number 1 at $15,037,000 to include clearing, masquerading, underground utilities, access road, fencing, basically the civil side of things. March of 23, we approved guaranteed maximum price number 2, $12.9 million. Basically do all the structural components. GMP 3, after we finish up this house cleaning, I will come back at the next board meeting, get the final, that's your final leg to complete that sewer plant, okay? So all 3 phases, you're still at your 31,308. Now, what happened? This is a deductive change order, a good change order to Wharton Smith for $5.228 million. Why is that? We direct purchased and saved about $250,000. So tonight, as I talk, if you so approve my motion, you will go from 31,000 because you still, 31 million, but you minus 3.3 because you don't have the GMP 3 yet. So tonight, approval of this motion will take your Wharton Smith contract to 22,719. When I come back with a final GMP 3, because you cannot budget until the funding's in place by law, you now have your final 3.3. I'm doing the chicken and egg theory on this, okay? That, your new contract will go to 26,079, 416.85. I'm requesting a motion to approve a supportive, a deductive change order in Intermodal Park in the amount of $5,229.99.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, that motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and your final walk-on item is time sensitive. So out at your Intermodal Park, and all the attorneys finally got it all together and was happy with it. Temporary easement agreement between the county and Weyerhaeuser to access, utilize the property. This allows us to take the next 6,000 linear foot of pipe. Project's going real well. We want to go ahead and button this up with your permission. That way we're not delaying anything. So I'm requesting a motion to approve and execute temporary easement agreement between Columbia County and Weyerhaeuser.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, that motion carries.
Thank y'all, gentlemen.
David?
Thank you very much. First thing I have is resolution number 2023-R26, Rural Community Development Revolving Loan. This is also the final piece of the North Florida Mega Industrial Park Wastewater Treatment Facility. It's to provide the remaining funding for the wastewater treatment facility. You had previously gone out and said We'll accept a revolving loan from the Department of Economic Opportunity for $8 million. Approve the term sheet. This resolution basically authorizes the execution of the loan documents, the promissory notes, everything else. And we have had these reviewed by the county attorney and also by our financial advisors. Financial advisor put in your packet his comments as well as the tests that have to be done. In a nutshell, so the public knows and everybody else knows, this is a 2.5% simple interest accrued on an annual basis. Technically, it could rise up to 3.5% if the state's special purpose investment account in the Treasury Investment Fund goes up over 1%. Right now, it's right around 2, so I mean, we're in good shape. So it'll be a 2.5% interest that we would pay. It's not accrued, it's not compounded, it's simple interest. It's paid with non-ad valorem revenues, and we've talked about creating a special assessment district or special taxing district of just the industrial park, so that the industrial park is paying for itself. You do not have to use the entire $8 million. You can use up to $8 million, but you don't have to spend it if we don't need it. You draw it in $1 million increments. You can draw this loan only over a 3-year period. After 3 years, you can't draw any more money. At the end of the 3-year period, it matures. You got 8 years total to pay for the whole thing. So at the end of 60 months, after the first 3 years, you got 60 months to pay off the whole loan. And they'll give you an amortization schedule based on how much you draw down. During the drawdown period, again, it's interest only plus $500 annual fee. If you prepay it, there is no penalty, and it does meet the anti-dilution test, which is what the financial advisor says. So what it means by that is we anticipate the possibility, if the board wants, to refinance after 3 years. So when you're done just paying interest and you get into having to pay principal and interest, you could refinance it for a more traditional type of loan. Or at that time, the board could say, we're going to just go ahead and pay the amortization schedule. So we're asking you to approve the $8 million rural community development revolving loan.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
We had an Economic Development Advisory Board meeting yesterday, and they recommended this approval of this project. The project is called Project Cottage. They manufacture modular housing. They're looking for a community to build their facility and also possibly bring their corporate headquarters and possibly also find some housing projects in which to demonstrate their product. The company has their funding in place. They've already indicated that they're ready to move forward once we can agree on everything. They're asking for a donation of land. If you remember the site on 100 where we did a land donation as part of an economic development agreement to a cold storage facility, the Hunter panel is behind it. They're looking at 20 acres behind Hunter panels. They're asking the board to include that as an economic incentive for them to come. In addition, they're requesting that's the 20 acres. In addition, they're wanting 75% new improved property and 50% tangible property taxes rebated for 8 years. On a score sheet, they scored 18 points. Like I said, your Economic Development Advisory Board is recommending this.
On behalf of people that wasn't there yesterday, could you tell them what the amount of money that they're gonna put into this project to be able to get this?
While she's coming up, it's the worst 20 acres that we have. It's gonna be a challenge for them to build on this property.
Isn't that land at Dale Williams?
Yeah, we done it.
Yeah, that's about the same, yeah.
So just a quick summary of the project. So it's timing on this project, he's looking at about a build out over 7 years. 25 million capital investment is his initial thoughts. It's going to expand larger than that. And just a little bit of clarification, it's not modular housing in the conventional sense. It's modular housing components. So as opposed to half a home, he's building essentially rooms that a homeowner would come in, determine how to configure their home. He would then produce those individual components, ship them on site, put the house together, and you have a finished home within about 6 weeks. So once the foundation cures, the rest of the process is fairly quick. So looking at about a 7-year total build out from beginning to end. First year, 50 employees. That's going to grow significantly year over year. And these are going to be considered advanced manufacturing jobs. Has a high level of skill involved. There's going to be quite a few engineering positions, so on and so forth. And he's also in conversations with University of Florida to incorporate some of their AI software into his process. So again, there's several components to this that make it a little bit different and interesting and very sustainable for the long term. And it is a competitive project. We're not the only community that he was looking at. Again, the request for the land, it's not it's a difficult piece of property to say the least. It's been on the market for quite a while. We haven't had any hits on it. This gentleman has the skill set and the ability to make that property work. So I would ask that you consider letting him take that property. Let's turn it into a manufacturing facility so we can produce some quality products and increase our revenue.
I move that we approve the incentive of 20 acres of land in addition to a rebate of 75% new improved property and 50% of tangible property tax over 8 years.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
Thank you, Board.
They had a really fancy presentation yesterday, if you want to pull it up.
Yes. We need housing. We need housing.
Updates to the county purchasing policies and procedures. Basically, we are below what the state allows us to do. We're asking you to increase the limit from 25,000 to 35,000. You'll be getting a separate policy on the federal procurement standards being reviewed by HUD currently. If you want to see the specifics where we're changing it, literally all we're doing is going from 25,000 to 35,000 before we have to go to sealed bids. That's on quotations and on contracting for professional services.
Motion.
Is there a
Make
motion?
motion.
So moved.
Got a
Second.
motion?
Second.
Got a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
The next item is the reallocation of funds to non-capital equipment. As you heard last week, the Eastern Tutney Partnership disbanded. So we have $40,000 in an account for the Eastern Tutney Partnership. We're requesting the board to take $25,000 of it, move it to non-capital equipment. So towards the end of the year, if we need to buy replacement printers, replacement computers, desks, fill in those holes that are in Lisa's desk, we would have the money set aside for that.
I move that we approve BA 23-61, the amount of $25,000.
Got a motion? Got a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
And this one here is basically Motorola is doing away with crystal reports, something that we pay for every year. They're also getting rid of what they call a WAVE program. I won't go into the details of what it does. It allows you to talk on the phone. I think they talked about it
We
in our
talked
last
about
meeting.
it, yeah.
So we're asking, since we're getting rid of the crystal reports, we need to do something to replace it. The next generation is this Motorola Reports web client called ComShop. So we're asking you to authorize us to purchase ComShop at $56,037. It is a wash because it's the money you're not spending on WAVE and on crystal reports.
So moved.
Second.
Comment. Just to bring it up, at this conversation we had about combined, as everybody notices, seems like every time we pick up the paper or something, Motorola's cutting something. But my point is, the money is wash, right?
Yes.
But are they not asking for more?
You will get hit in your budget 2 or 3 years from now by about $11,000.
But also the sheriff's office, I think it was, on the combined issues that we talked about, yeah.
Yes, you're right,
Refresh
Commissioner.
everybody at that number.
So in
That's a
terms of
big one,
WAVE
too.
phasing out, they were talking about a project called Critical Connect. If you remember, that was a $200,000, $290,000 initial payment plus $100,000, $91,000 every year annual maintenance if you go with that different program.
Right.
And that would be part of your capital budget coming up in the next few years.
just remember when we're at conference here in a week or two, you turn that corner, Motorola's gonna hit you like a damn ton of bricks. And as you remember, the little lady got so mad at me in here. This is common procedure, and we were warned of this. They bring you in, get you in the bottom of this. They keep putting water on top.
Yes.
So, beware.
And they produce a nice product, but they're very proud of it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
got a motion. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hold like sign. That motion carried.
Finally, Swanee Valley Transit, they're asking you to renew the contract. I put it on the agenda because it's not just the regular agenda, because they're renewing the contract, but as part of the renewal, it is going to go up from 58,706 to 62,728. They're basing that on their calculation of 90 cents per capita.
How much was that in dollars, real dollars?
About $4,000.
4,000. I make a motion to approve the renewal contract with Swanee Valley.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
And then there was one addition. We received yesterday or the day before a letter from the Chamber of Commerce saying, hey, we want to do fireworks. So they're asking your permission to do the fireworks. On the
Ask
4th of
permission to do
July.
what?
Fireworks.
For the fireworks on the
Okay, I
4th of
got you.
July.
Oh, yeah.
All right, motion.
So move.
Got a motion. All in
Second.
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
Thank you very much.
You had the temporary easement.
No, Kevin already
Kevin
did that.
got that. We had a, board, we had a, report of the, not findings, but the, from Richard Powell's office for Swanee Valley Transit the other day. Give the guy a little bit of head warning because he did what Richard normally does up here. And I told him if you paid attention to the last 40-something years, get ready because Ron's gonna hit you. And I said,
He did that.
yeah, so he's prepared, but it was, I think we're gonna be in good hands again.
But all jokes aside, Larry's doing a wonderful job of it.
Yeah.
All right, 3-minute comments, anyone? 3 minutes. Yes, ma'am?
Well, good evening. I'm Nancy Turner with Woodboro North. And I have some just updates I want to talk about here. I talked to Mr. Kirby the other day about recent activity out at the subdivision, a lot of going on. And what it turns out is that the property is being purchased by another developer, what's left of phase 1. And so they've been doing their due diligence and getting their surveys and such together. My question was, are we still under a moratorium for the building permit? So Mr. Kirby did tell me that yes, the answer was yes, until Swanee River Water Management District has completed or released, or I'm not sure. I guess I have a question. What was the answer concerning that with Swanee River? Mr. Kirby.
Mr. Chair. So I did inform you until the issue between the Water Management District as it currently stands was resolved, we were not going to issue any more building permits.
Okay.
We reduced that to writing to everybody involved as far as the developer, folks buying. To kind of inform you, I did speak with the engineering firms recently, it was about 3 or 4 o'clock today. And they are getting real close, according to what he told me, with what everybody can agree on. And what that's going to consist of, based on what I was told today, is on the front pond, a significant enlargement. I was told up to 3 times what is currently there. It is my understanding that they are getting real close on both sides to agreeing to that. And I did confirm with him that until that's all done and ratified, we would hold up, I think it's 13 lots. Am I saying that right?
Probably, I'm
In
not
phase
sure.
1, I think there's 13 lots left in phase 1 that we would not be issuing building permits till that all the smoke settled with that.
Okay, so does that include the completion of the modification, or that was my question?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Actually, we're not gonna do, we're not put any fuel to the fire. So for them to be in, compliance with their new permit, if you may,
Uh-huh.
obviously the plans, it's like anything, the first step is getting the plans approved, right?
Right.
So once the plans are approved, the construction will have to happen. And then assuming all the boxes are checked,
Uh-huh.
and of course, the legal staff and all will validate that. And then we'll go step two, if you may.
Okay. That was what I wanted clarification about. It's after the completion of the modified permit, the accepted modified permit. Once they complete what's been accepted, enlarging the pond, the building permits would not be issued until the completion of the pond? That
Yes,
right?
ma'am, that
That's
is
right.
correct. They have
Okay,
to
I
be in
just wanna make sure.
compliance. Yes, ma'am.
I'm actually not feeling very well, so I'm just, sorry, my time is up. So you did cover part of what I wanted to tell you, that we've been attending the meetings and I didn't know if they were including you and how close they say they're getting to agreement. And because they've been having weekly meetings that I didn't know if you were being invited to. We haven't been invited to any of them. Okay. So I guess that would be it. I guess we just covered it all. Oh, I know what it was. They talked about in their May 9th meeting, there was mention of feasibility studies for piping Woodboro North discharge water to Lake Lona, and that said, they mentioned that Columbia County was looking into that as a feasibility. Are you familiar or aware of what I'm talking about?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, this may get me in trouble, but on May 9th, they indicated that the county was doing feasibility studies to pipe the water discharge to Lake Lona, which is quite a distance. So,
Who are they?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
just for validation purposes, I've not attended any outside meetings, since this all really got way back in the early days. I can only logically assume the reason they're talking to me, they very much are incentivized to get this problem worked out,
uh,
to get rid of the 13 lots. That's an opinion of mine. But I've not attended any meetings, nor has anybody done any other methodology on my side of things.
okay. So you're not aware of a feasibility
No, ma'am.
study? No. Okay. Well
Thank
then,
you.
thank you. Thank you for allowing me.
On your way to your chair, who is they? Who did you say was they?
At the meeting at Swanee River,
Okay.
the board meeting on May the 9th is when it was mentioned a couple of times, actually, that the county was looking at the feasibility of that as a recharge area. they
Thank
call it.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is River. I live here in Lake City, and I've been coming up talking to you guys about animal control issues. Last year around Christmas time, I told you about like the dog that attacked my neighbor's dog. Well, these dogs, they're like 2 houses down from me, and I get up pretty early in the morning. I go jogging, and Sunday morning at 4:30 in the morning, both of these dogs, and they're big male dogs, probably like 80, 90 pounds apiece. They tried to attack me. They just came running up behind me, and needless to say, it was very scary. But the thing is, like later that day, that same day, I was out in my front yard and I saw an elderly woman walking down the street, and both of these dogs ran out of their driveway and they attacked that lady. And fortunately, I was there to see it, and I ran up there like trying to help her and chase these dogs off. And both times we called animal control. And so Sunday at 4:30, I'm being attacked by 2 dogs. I think that's kind of an emergency situation. Here it is Thursday evening, and I haven't heard from animal control. And the lady hasn't heard from animal control from them attacking her. And we even called the police, and the police came and they checked, and the one dog took off, but the other dog they were able to secure in the kennel, and like nothing happened. And I know you guys said you're starting a new animal control agency. Um, And I went to the last budget workshop y'all had. I didn't see it on any of the slides. I was just wondering like when that's gonna happen because these dogs are still on the loose and I don't know if was the owner notified, was the owner fined, like what's going on with that?
I believe October 1st is our date. Is that right? October 1st, it's not gonna be that way anymore. And I'm gonna give you my phone number and all, we're gonna have a phone number that you're gonna be able to call and human beings are gonna come out there and take care of those dogs. We're not gonna have, well, I called, I didn't call, we didn't call you back. There is an issue with animal control. That's why we're fixing it. So you're gonna have a phone number that's gonna be really good. You're gonna call it, and it's gonna be just like is it 911 or it's gonna be hooked to 911, right?
So there's a couple different ways to do it, but if it's an animal attack and you're being attacked, you should call 911.
We did call 911 when the elderly woman got attacked in broad daylight and the police officers came and they said they were trying to get a hold of animal control,
Right.
but animal control never showed up.
I believe it. I believe what you're saying because that's been an ongoing issue here and that's why we're changing it October 1st.
So we will have an after hours number, but if it's ever a situation where it's an emergency, call 911.
But October 1st is when we take over animal control. It's not going to be animal control doing it anymore. The people you call and don't help you, it's not going to be them anymore. It's going to be us. Okay?
And like kind of like a sub question off of that question was I noticed on one of the slides at the budget workshop, there was the part for like the parks, like the Alligator Lake Park playground replacement because it's 23 years old. You're giving $156,000. Like I'm not trying to be like mean. I just would like to invite you guys to see it from my point of view, especially your constituents. Like literally animal control is being given just over $300,000 for the creation of a brand new agency. So like a new playground literally is getting a little bit more than half that. So it kind of looks like that maybe the cosmetic improvements for local parks is given a higher priority than your constituents' children's safety.
Those playgrounds have to be replaced because of we're liable for injuries on them. So I understand what you're saying, but we're spending a lot more than 150 on all the animal control. What's the total budget for our animal control and Humane Society?
If you add up all total costs, it'll be between 800 and $1 million.
Yeah, we're going to spend some
How
money.
much?
800 to $1
Between
million.
800,000 and $1 million.
So believe me,
Okay.
we care about the animal control. It's a sticking point with all of us. We're just frustrated now. That's why we're
Okay. All right.
All right,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
you need to wrap it up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be quick, and it's not about Woodsboro North, believe it or not. And for every bad story, you might have a good one. I did have 2 times with animal control that did come out right away and did pick up the dogs. So I don't know what the situation is, but I did have good things happen. That feasibility study, if it was going on, would you know about it? Is that something you would be aware of? Or would it be somebody else in the county?
I'm unaware of it.
So you guys would be the ones to know that, right? Okay, I'm just wanting to make sure we're coming to the right place. Okay. Okay, thank you. And then, last, can I just tell you about HCL Hospital? Make a comment? Is that something I'm allowed to do to the county? 2 weeks ago, I had some heart pains about 2:00 in the morning, and I went there, and they pretty much refused to see me because I had an outside issue with the kidney transplant. They would not hook me up to echocardiogram or nothing. I didn't leave there until probably 8 hours later because we were not comfortable driving me to Gainesville or other hospitals in the situation I was in. But they literally refused to treat me in any way whatsoever. And I had to eventually get an ambulance and drive to Orlando, or have him drive me to Orlando. I had 2 needles stuck, one in each arm that bent immediately. They did try to take some blood. I never got any blood results whatsoever. And that was their second day after opening the emergency room. They didn't know where the bathroom was. When I wanted to go to the bathroom, there was no toilet paper or paper in that bathroom. It was a pretty bad experience for their opening, and I did complain to the lady in charge. And I would like to call her back and say, when you do have heart issues of any kind, what are you to do? She said they have no cardiac people there whatsoever. but I know people have been treated there with cardiac issues. So I'm not real sure about that. But I'm just here to say, it wasn't pleasant. I'm very disappointed. And it's kind of tough living in Lake City when you don't have a place like that as you get older. That's all. And thank you guys for your kindness over the year that we've been together dealing with Woodsboro North. I find you much kinder and friendlier than Swanee River Water Management District people. And I want to thank you for that. You're a lot more warmth, a lot more friendlier, and it's noticeable, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Would there be anyone else? Board?
Well, being I won't stay here all night, I'm good.
Joe, here is what I need for me to make a decision. I need to know, do waste control within the guidelines of their contract ask for an increase?
So
Secondly, you don't have to answer now.
I'll help you out. Go ahead, keep going.
Secondly, I would like to know, all the contracts they have, are they still asking for the same increase? Other contract.
Right. So one follows the other, right? So if you answer the first question and say, yes, we're going to open up negotiation, then you want to know the answer to the second question. I did review the language in our contract. There's a reason we do 5-year contracts. It's so we can budget and plan, project. The contract that y'all locked in has the 5-year period. It's got the rates that are set. It was negotiated. It was negotiated in 2021, which Commissioner Hollingsworth and I talked about this. If you look at the price trends, a lot of the adverse impacts were already happening or they're actually improving now. So they've got 2 different sets of criteria where they can, and basically they can petition you for more money. You can always say no, right? And then the contract just controls. But where the contract opens the doors if there's a regulatory change, okay? That's always been in our contract. If there's a regulatory change that makes it too hard to do waste control under these prices, then you can ask the board. The other thing we did add, because it was October 2021, was, hey, if there's something unforeseen related to COVID-19 pandemic, then we will look at it. Talking to Commissioner Hollingsworth again, trying to come up with an example. There's a new strain that breaks out at a truck plant, and they can't manufacture the trucks for 3 months. And now there's a national truck shortage. You can attribute it in something that happened post-October 2021 related to COVID. Okay. All right, well, there's a basis to come in. Just saying prices went up,
Yeah.
you know, it's really not triggering the contract. It's a contract that you can renegotiate if you want to, but if the question is, do you have to? No, you do not. No, you do not. And I did. I was asked to look at that earlier this week. I did. I don't think you're obligated. You have a contract, you got 20 months into a 60 month, you got 40 more months. If you don't want to deal with it, don't deal with it.
5 years.
Okay, motion for adjournment? We adjourn.